Welcome back from your worm adventure. Were you able to find out the differences between the two ends of the worm? Were you able to identify where the head was and which side was the tail? That's great. I bet you found some really good observations. So what we're going to do right now is going to go over all of those different ways. And if you had noticed one of those, you can give me a little bit of a sign. Say, yep, I noticed that one. So if you're looking at a worm, and as it's wiggling around, you may have noticed that one end moved a lot more than the other. Did you notice that one? Yes. So the side that was wiggling the most, that was the head. The head was going back and forth, trying to figure out where's light and where's dark. Now, for a worm, light could be bad. You could dry out, you can get eaten, or you get stepped on. So they're trying to figure out where is the darker area. Now, do worms have eyes? No, they don't need eyes. They just have special skin on the top of their head to notice light and dark. And we can even do that with our eyes. So if you put your hands right in front of your face and then start moving it back and forth, now close your eyes. Can you notice when it's a little bit darker? Yes. So if you open your eyes again, that's how a worm's sort of sensing where light and dark is. They don't need the eyes for where they live. So we have one end that's moving very much. Now, when you saw those two ends, did you notice there were two different colors? Yes, I bet you did. So the tail could be like a pinkish orangish color, and the head was red. Now the head is red not because it rhymes, it's because right past its mouth are its hearts. How many hearts do you have? Yeah, you have one heart. Red wigglers have 5 hearts. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's a lot more blood on this end of the worm. So we have the fact that it wiggles a lot. We notice this end is very red. Now this one is a little bit hard to see, but when we review some of the videos in a little bit, I bet you'll notice it then. Did anyone notice a little white dot on one end? So on the head, there is this white dot. Is it the shiny teeth? No. Red wigglers don't have teeth. They just have a white lip. It's sort of like a flap at the end of their mouth, and that's another way you can tell the head from the tail. Ooh, but now we have a problem. Our poor little worm has no teeth to be able to break apart its food. What can it do? Now, if you go back to all the food I gave it in the story, everything was from a plant except for one thing. What did I feed my worms that was not from a plant? You're right, the eggshell. So, and you may have seen some of these eggshells in the compost videos. So what my special worm does is they will eat those eggshells. It will go past its hearts, and then will go past its tummy to what's called a gizzard. Can you say gizzard? Now, they will store those eggshells in their gizzard, and then they can use those eggshells to smash apart their food. Pretty cool. So worms have gizzards, chickens have gizzards, and even some ancient dinosaurs had gizzards. We don't have gizzards because we have teeth. So now, another thing you may have noticed is looking at the whole worm is that sometimes you could sort of see this line going through the inside of the worm. Now, we already noticed from the fact that because there's so much blood on the head end, it looks red. Their skin's sort of see-through. So you can see this line, and sometimes they had little dark areas. Now, those are its intestines. Ours are all wiggly waggly in our belly. Theirs goes in a straight line. And so if you see that, that's getting closer to the tail. Now, another way we can tell the head from the tail, and this one is a little bit harder when you look at a red wiggler because of the red color. But I bet if you think about worms that you've seen outside, you've probably noticed this. Have you seen on worms that sometimes they have this sort of band-aid area? Yes. Now, this area is called the clitellum, and this is where they release their eggs. And this is always closer to the head. So if you see a worm outside and you see that sort of band-aid area, the clitellum, you know that the head is on that side. Now, the final way you can tell the head from the tail is, remember, our little worms are wiggling back and forth, and every once in a while, they're going to release a casting. And if you figure out which end released the casting, would that be the head or the tail? You're right, that would be the tail. So if you see the worm releasing a casting, you know that's not the head, it's the tail. Now, what we're going to do next is that I'm going to go back through some of those videos and be able to show you all of those different ways to tell the head from the tail, so that you can always go back with one of your adults to the last episode and be able to say, oh, did you notice that this side is redder? And did you notice that if it releases a casting, that is the tail? All right, let's head over and look at those videos.
So welcome to my compost bin. You notice I have newspaper on top. It helps keep some moisture over them, and also the worms will eat it too. Now there is a lot of things going on in the compost bin. Here you can see red wigglers, some little teeny springtail bugs. You can also see some of the food that I left them. There's some eggshells and a radish. Here is a sow bug from my compost bin. A sow bug is not an insect because it has more than 6 legs. It's actually a land-living crustacean, similar to a shrimp. I picked up some of my compost friends and put them on a plate so it's easier to see. Here you can see both the red wiggler and also the white worms, those very small wiggling worms. If you look at the large worm, you can see the white lip right there on the end of its head. On the smaller worm, you can see the change in color from the red at the head to the yellow at the tail. On the lower worm, you can see the intestines where those dark dots getting closer to the tail. And you may have missed it, but the worm on top just released a casting. Let's quickly rewind it. Keep your eye on the worm on the top. Did you notice that? Now let's look at some white worms. In this video, you can see a white worm riding the back of a red wiggler. The white worm's skin is so transparent you can see their insides. Just like the white worms, the red wiggler's skin is also very thin. So even in this one, in the top worm, you can see their 5 hearts, that dark area that's close to its head. Here you can see the clitellum, or that band-aid area that's close to the head of the worm. This is where they release their eggs. Worm eggs are orange and can have 2 to 5 baby worms inside. The small worm in this video is actually wiggling by an egg. In this photo of a worm egg, you can see in the lower worm it's 5 hearts. You can actually see the babies moving inside the egg. This video, which was taken by a student, has a white worm, little springtail, and a red wiggler releasing a casting.
Now that you know more about how to tell the head from the tail of a worm, I wanted to tell you one more important fact about how to take care of worms that are in a worm bin. Now, you noticed from my story and from when you looked at what was in my worm bin that I tend to give my worms some eggshells and then things that come from plants, a lot of our fruits and veggies. So you can even put in coffee grinds or the tea bags, because those are things that are the outside is paper, which comes from a tree, and the other things are from plants, the leaves and the coffee beans. So I feed these things to my worms, and that's sort of like their favorite food. Now, I eat other stuff too. I like chicken and bread and cheese, but I don't feed those to my worms in my compost bin in my kitchen. There's a reason. So the meats, the cheeses, and the breads, those are called the no-nos for indoor worm bins. So let's see, as a scientist, what would happen at your home if you put on your counter a piece of chicken, a piece of bread, and a piece of cheese, and left it there for a week? What would happen? What do you say? Right. It's going to rot. And those things, the breads, the meats, and cheese, when they rot, oh, do they smell? And remember I said this is under my sink in my kitchen? Do I want a stinky kitchen? No. Now, the other reason we don't put the no-nos into our indoor compost bins is that with that smell, you may start getting some other friends moving in, like ants and mice. I don't want those in my kitchen. So I make sure I feed my worms just what they want. They want to have those nice fruits and veggie scraps, the parts that I weren't going to eat, the apple cores, the tops of my carrots, all these things that we can put in so that the worms can eat them, make the really good castings, that super dirt, to be able to help complete this compost cycle. I hope you've enjoyed learning about the compost cycle with me. If you're interested in learning about how to set up a worm bin at your home, or would like a few extra worksheets to continue your worm investigation, please have your adult send me an email and I can send that packet your way. I look forward to seeing you in future videos. Bye.